Out of the Rough, the Association of Women Entrepreneurs edition. I'm here with my co-host Fred Arnold, and we have another great guest.
We always do.
My friend Denise Placencio. She is a family law attorney. 18 years. You wouldn't know by
You're a
looking at
veteran.
her.
I am,
Yes.
and proud of
Yes.
it.
Yeah, and this is kind of a tough subject, but I know if you know you're in the unfortunate situation of needing a family law attorney, Denise is the one to call for sure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about child custody, and what is the hardest part of that whole situation?
You know, it's a really hard thing to go through. A lot of parents really use their children as objects to be negotiated with, and so it's really hard when you see people using their children as bargaining chips, and so that really kind of pulls on your heartstrings a lot. So what I try to do in my cases is I try to resolve the custody and visitation first so that we can negotiate the property and the money and the pensions separately, knowing that the kid's schedule is set. There's no negotiating with the children's time, like, I'll give you the grand piano if you give me Monday nights with Jimmy.
Oh, wow.
You know, you try to avoid, you know, intermixing the two. So I really try to settle the kid issues first. It gives the kids a schedule. It gives them safety and security, knowing where they're going to be, who they're going to be with at all times, and then we can go through the rest of the money type issues later.
That's when kids thrive, is when they have routine and certainty through a difficult time like that. So it's brilliant.
And they really need even more structure than they would normally need in a intact family. Parents come to me with like these crazy ideas of what a parenting schedule should look at, and I tell them, if your child cannot articulate where he's going to be with his friends, oh, it's Mondays. Every Monday I'm with Dad. Your child needs to be able to know where he's going to be. You can know everything about it, but if your child can't articulate it to his little buddies, it's not workable for him.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's the third week of the month.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't work for them. So we try to keep it really simple for the kids' sake.
That makes sense.
You know, and kids, they rebound. They really do. If they know certainty and they know that you love them. My parents were divorced. I got it. But they want certainty, and they want to know they're loved and cared about.
For sure. And you know what? People always say to me, I'm so worried about my child. You know, they're spending a night with Dad or they're spending a night with Mom. And what I tell them is kids are super resilient. Make it exciting for them. You don't have one home, you have two homes. You don't have one bedroom, you have two bedrooms. Your children will pick up your energy, your excitement, your attitude about the situation. So whether I represent men or women, I always tell them, be excited for your kids. Even if you have to, you know, staple on the smile for them, it's about them and making them feel happy and safe.
You know, I'll just mention one thing. In the entire time up until I was 18, and my parents were divorced shortly after I was born, my mother never said anything negative one time about my father. And I always respected that.
And that's key.
Yeah.
And what I tell my clients all the time is, when you are saying something negative about Johnny's dad, you're telling him that half of him is no good, because he is half his mom and half of his dad. So when you are criticizing the other parent, that child says, well, wow, I must be that thing too, whatever label that you're calling it. And so I really coach my clients about staying positive. Even if you feel that way, articulate it to your friend, your shrink, somebody else other than your son or your daughter who takes that on.
Great advice. Let's talk about getting the expense down, because a lot of times they talk about the fact that it's so expensive to go through this process.
It can be very expensive. It can be. There's a lot of ways to do it. Number one, be organized. Have your documents together. You know, have them labeled, know where your things are. You know, it's like preparing to go to your tax meeting. You've got to be together. Nothing prohibits a family law case from settling in pieces. So if we can settle 3 out of the 10 items, great. Let's get pen to paper. Let's get signatures. Let's get the judge to sign off. Resolve it in sets. People can manage in their mind smaller groups of issues. It's easier to tackle than this life-changing event. So to keep the expense down, let's settle the things that are easy and then spend our time and our money fighting over the larger, more important things.
Wow, that's good advice.
Smart.
Okay, so do you litigate cases or do you mediate them as well?
I do both. I've been in practice for 17 years. I mostly litigate cases. A lot of people come to me and they say, look, we don't want to pay 2 lawyers. We want to preserve our kids' college funds. We don't want to dip into our retirement. We've decided that we're both not going to have an attorney. Can you help us?
Oh, wow.
In that case, I serve as a mediator. I don't advocate for either party. I tell them I sit as a judge pro tem in court, which means I actually decide cases. And if you were to go to court, this is what happened. This is what will happen. So I help them develop their own solutions outside of the court process. It's much faster. It's much less expensive. And people are more likely to follow agreements that they voluntarily enter into than something that's been forced upon them by a judge. You know, somebody's not going to be happy with that court order, and they're less likely to follow it.
I got to share something real quick. A friend of mine always used to say, if I ever got divorced, I would divvy it up and let my wife choose which side to pick, or she can divvy it up,
Right.
and I'll get the first choice of which side to pick, so you divvy it up fairly.
That way you know it's fair.
Yeah,
That's a great solution.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yep. How can those that want to reach you get your services and advice?
They can visit my website, www.DaCorsi.net, or they can call me at 818-884-6666.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Very good. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.